So I already mentioned the fact that our webinar is part of the European Green Week. So please, if you make noise across the channel, the social media channels, use the hashtag EU Green Week and also Digital for Planet, so that we will help propagating and making more visible the discussions we're having today. Now, the workshop is being recorded and it will be published on the Digital for Planet website. During the discussions, during the presentation, you can just post your questions, comments in the live discussion chat. And then when we will have, at the end of each presentation or when we will have our panel discussion, we will take them on board. As I mentioned, there's major other events. We're not alone, so let's join the club and make sure that we make a lot of noise, because the message we want to propagate is important to all of us. And in doing so, please use the hashtags EU Green Week, EU Green Deal, and possibly tagging EU Env, Digital EU and Digital for Planet. If you have or you're experiencing some audio problems or technical issues, please drop an email to info@digitalforplanet.org. Now, my name is Monique Calisti. Sorry, I didn't introduce yet myself. I'm the president of Digital for Planet that you will discover in a second. It's a non-profit association founded in Switzerland, but with outreach all over in Europe. Today, I have the pleasure to host Almut Nagel, that is Policy Officer for Green Digital Transformation at the European Commission. She will give a presentation, help us understanding the framework for EU Green Deal and Green Digital. Then we will have three guests. Well, Christina from the Fire Foundation didn't feel well today, so I'm afraid she might not join finally. But we have Raoul Tomar, that is one of the co-founder of Digital Twin Technology, an SME based in Germany that is also very much committed to green digital. So we will hear from Raoul what they are doing in that respect. And we will also hear from Giovanni Rimassa, that is the Chief Innovation Officer of Martel Innovate, what Martel is doing. Martel is an SME based in Switzerland. What is Martel doing in terms of green transformation? Now, we will have then a panel discussion. As I said, if Christina is missing, we might have a little bit more time. And the idea is that we close and wrap up by 12 with a little bit of a presentation about the Digital for Planet membership and activities that I will give. Now, I would like to thank you for your attention, and I would pass the floor to Almut for her presentation. So, stop. Where do I stop? Sorry, I can't. Yes, voila.
Okay, good morning, everybody. My name is Almut Nagel. I'm working with Digital Connect. My background, however, is environment. I'm a seconded national expert from Germany, from the Environment Ministry. And I got to get into this thrilling topic by having the possibility, when I was in the German presidency, to negotiate the council conclusions under the German presidency that were called digitalization for the benefit of the environment. And there the connection comes from. So if anybody wants to go back to this document from 2020, it's still valid. It poses the same question that we'll be discussing today. Looking forward to joint answers. Now I try to share my screen. Please let me know if that is working.
Yes, it is working.
Very good.
You can see it well and we can hear well.
So I hope I also managed to switch on to the next slide. No, this is not yet the case. Sorry for that. It's always the same. Here. not sure how I can go further. Do you see a new slide?
We can see the first slide, but maybe you can try. I don't know if you're showing it with it's a PDF.
No, it's a
PowerPoint.
A PowerPoint.
So you should, in principle, if it's in
now it should.
Yes, now it works.
See the second one.
Yes,
okay.
yes.
Well, what I'm talking today is about the green transition, the nexus of the green transition and the digital transformation. So the famous twin transition that is all talked about. I think I don't need to go into why we really dearly need to work on this. This is one of I really do like it. It came out at the beginning of the COVID, and then there was the fear of recession, climate change, but we should not forget that the biodiversity collapse is even bigger, a bigger threat than the climate change itself. This just as a short warm up. There is really a time lapse between my presentation, and I don't like this so much. Here we go.
Yeah.
So the Commission's priorities on the twin transition, you might all be aware that with Ursula von der Leyen, when she brought forward the European Green Deal, she really made a bold political programming, including all the relevant sustainability aspects, really moving forward on economy, but at the same time also taking account of environment aspects and of social aspects. So this is really a programmatic approach that encompasses all three pillars of sustainability. But she chose on purpose, let's say, two main pillars, which is digitalization and ecological transformation, and she called it the twin ecological and digital transitions, also known as the twin transition. What we're talking about mainly today, is it coming? It's again tricky. Wait. Here we go. What we're talking mainly today is we need to look into two different dimensions. We're talking about synergies and conflicts of those two transformations. The synergies, and here we're in the realm of projections, say that we can reduce between 15 and 20% of global greenhouse gases with digital tools and installations. The synergies also prescribe that we will have more green jobs and business models that really help cutting greenhouse gas emissions, but also help on the material side. Often the discussions, however, get a little bit stuck in the conflict side as well. This is what is mainly been talked and shown. It's about the footprinting. The calculations go that were somewhere in between 2 and let's say 4% of global greenhouse gases that are emitted by digital uses. However, the e-waste is really the fastest growing waste category, with today only about 17% of e-waste recycled. And if you allow, sometimes it's not clear if also burning it on sites in Africa is considered in this figure. So we're really not very good in the recycling and the refurbishing part. The conflicts also go there that maybe some of the next steps might be going more into green, that current patterns in digital might be hampered. I'm just putting forward the built-in obsolescence, or also the energy intensive blockchain mining. There are alternatives, but this is really, if we go more green, we need to find more solutions on this. So what we really need to look into, besides those two trades, and here Digital for Planet is really strong, looking into the greening of the ICT. We also need to look into the enabling parts. As I said before, mostly today we look at the conflict because they're measurable, but the enabling effects are not yet fully measurable, and this is where we need to look at. We need to maximize the benefits of digital towards sustainability, and we need to define the purpose and also be aware of systems boundaries within which digital solutions are really helpful. Just as an example, if you look at precision farming, this might be helpful where you have like big plots of land where GPS run tractors might be of help. But if you're in small scale agricultural systems, then digital solutions beyond prediction of weather events might not be the big gain. What we're missing today is a science-based method to measure what the net contribution of digital solutions to the environment are. We can measure quite well the footprint, but as I said, the enabling effect is not yet very good when it comes to measuring. And we will need this because there is a lot of money put out there via the recovery and resilience plans of member states, EU taxonomy. If we don't know if a digital solution has environmental benefits, then it's also difficult to choose between different solutions, but also where do I put my money? It's just not clear. It's not clear for authorities. It's not clear for private investors. It's not clear for banks. So here we really do have a lack. Just going very briefly into what we are talking about. It's about climate neutral data centers. Here we're relatively well set. There is the code of conduct of the GRC, of the Joint Research Center of the Commission, and this is already something quite concrete. There's also the green electronics communications out there, so a lot of transparency measures are on the way, and incentives for green employment. From the Commission side, the Circular Electronics Initiative, we also put forward a big, let's say, package of the Sustainable Product Initiative end of March, part of which I will go into it with the next slide, is the Digital Product Passport. We're also working on new generation internet and low power processors in order to decrease the electronic needs, but it's also all about keeping processors longer in use. So I already stated, digital for circularity is possibly the sector where most gains can be expected, and where digital plays a major role. If we don't close the loops of material, this will have, it's the linear economic model is just bound to fail. So we really need to close it to circularity. And as I said, digital is main, especially when you look at the tracking and tracing along value chains. There, without digital, this will not come bring the effects needed. Well, also smart mobility has the promise to have major cuts in emissions. So there are something like 37% of emission reductions are possible, but also there still proof needs to be made. Smart buildings is out there with about 17% of promised emission cuts, and then smart energy systems in total about 23%. The point here is that all those solutions might happen at the same space, but also here we need to make a major leap forward to bring solutions better together and really have an added gain, and not 3 different systems that run in parallel and could be used in a more holistic way. I already touched upon it briefly. In the resilience and recovery plans of member states, there is the, let's say, the earmarking of 37% for green and climate, and 20% are foreseen for digital solutions for the rollout. But all member states, and this is really a pity, all member states, maybe also because of time constraints, didn't manage to really overlap those 2 strands of finance. So there is no, let's say, joint projects or programs on green digital. So the whole community is called upon to work better to make it really a twin transition and not 2 different strands running in parallel. I want to briefly touch upon what is already out there at the level of member states. There was the Digital Day last year, where member states, including Norway and Iceland, committed to work towards a better use of digital technologies for the benefit of the environment. For example, green public procurement is considered the default option, but also really working towards the decarbonization of energy networks, decrease pollution, and data centers is a major point on this. At the same time, in parallel, there were 26 CEOs of ICT companies, European, but also worldwide, who committed on the first one for climate neutrality by 2040, and they will work together in the deployment of green digital solutions. And the main part here is developing methods to calculate the net environmental benefit of digital solutions in order to make it comparable, in order to know everybody now claims my solution is the best, and but we cannot compare because the metrics are not there. So the main body of cooperation is finding methodologies. We're helped with by a big consortium which is led by JESI, but Carbon Trust is, let's say, in the machinery to help us set up those metrics. And the next step will be to co-create guidelines for different sectors in order to be sure that, for example, when we talk about connected mobility, we don't run into rebound effects where, for example, we have a continuous fleet of automated cars running in the system, but at the same time, people still buy their cars, and the public transport system is cannibalized by ever running Ubers driverless. So we really need to look into when our digital solutions still beneficial, both environmentally but socially. Now, by now we have 34 CEOs that signed the European Green Digital Coalition, and for everybody, for the bigger companies, but also for small companies, I would recommend just check it out. There are also a lot of small and medium-sized enterprises that have signed the declaration. So maybe you will look into this as well. This is my last slide. I will not go into this in detail as it is made publicly available afterwards. These are the, let's say, last legal and non-legal activities the Commission has put forward at the intersection of green and digital. And I look forward to all your questions in the question and answer session. Thank you a lot.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Almut. I wanted to remind the audience that the slides will be made available via the Digital for Planet web pages. So you will have all of them. Now, there is a question that, if you allow me, I would take immediately because it concerns the presentation that Almut just gave. And the question comes from Just de Kluiver. I'm not sure if I pronounce it well, but it says, could Ms. Nagel explain why it is considered a logical role for tech companies to come up with measuring tool and methods? One might say that companies are better at developing green circular business concept proposition or services. That's the core of their business.
Well, I tried to reread it in the chat. Well, I think we're talking about two different things here. Every company is compelled to bring forward their, let's say, the best ICT products possible, in the sense of I will put forward the best working computer, or I will put forward the best way of using sensors in whatever. Here we're, let's say, my product is best, but to measure how this product will cut emissions at a later stage when it's kind of outside of the enterprise, this is what we're working at. So it's about how can we find overarching solutions that don't, let's say, end at the product level, but they look also in the usage and the life of that product, be it the footprinting of the product in the use phase, but also in the cutting of emissions in the use phase. So I think these are two different aspects we look at. And for companies that have, let's say, work on the product part, this is the question of Joost is yeah, pertinent. It's clear we really need to work towards this. I hope this this answered the question, Joost.
Thank you very much, Almut. Since I don't see other question for the time being, what I would suggest is that we pass to the speakers. In fact, I also have a little presentation, but I would go last. So I would first of all give the floor to Raul to give his presentation. Raul, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Monique. No, I don't have presentation slides. I would like to make it a more interactive discussion here to present what we do in digital twin technology in the area of a green digital. So, hello everyone. My name is Rahul Tama. I'm co-founder for Digital Twin Technology. We are based in Germany. I'm basically mechanical, civil, and software engineer. So worked for the construction industry and then started this company together with two of my partners, Volker Sprengel and Jens Wiesk in Germany. With the digital twin, our mostly goes in the area of developing how the 3D models and connecting with the sensors for the replica of the infrastructure. And then there basically comes our more and more towards how to go for the green digital, because we are using too much of the server spaces. And our software because it utilizes artificial intelligence, and for the artificial intelligence to run on the servers, it consumes too much energy. So it's like there's a very it's like a hypocrisy that at the one side I'm saying about we are going for the digital green digital, and on the side I'm using the artificial intelligence. So it is not the correct thing to do. So we come up the way of doing it internally to do the development of the AI processors. Currently with the artificial intelligence, when we run on the server, it consumes GPU, and if people are known about this, GPUs basically never meant for the artificial intelligence or machine learning part. GPUs are only meant for graphic designs, for VFX effects, all these things, never for the artificial intelligence. So the new architecture has been designed not only here in Europe, but also in US. Some good startups and also big companies are working for designing the new architecture for these kind of processors. Some companies call it as TPUs, some is called AI on chip. So this has been designed. So what is happening in this area that with the GPUs, when we run any artificial AI algorithm, it runs on each and every node, and which consumes too much of energy and every time whenever we process anything. With the AI processors, it can be easily done intelligently, that how we can consume less resource and give the same result what we are using with the GPUs, in fact, in much more faster way. So this is one area which is still under research, because basically neuromorphic processor is on that side, but still it's not very well accepted within the industry for using inside of the server side. It is right now in the laptops and desktop, it has been consumed, but not on the server side. Still the work is going on, and in this area we are working basically for the designing of our own AI on chip. This is also mentioned by the Almut on the presentation that AI processors is a very focus for the European Commission right now, and also due to over the last 2-3 years during the COVID time, when we have a silicon problem all over the world. So the Europe is mostly focusing on to have manufacturing plant here in Europe. So these small AI processors can be developed, designed here in Europe also, and then can be manufactured by some silicon manufacturing company. Second point, what we work on, as also mentioned by Almut, about the recycling plant for the electronics. So we don't have the recycling factory right now. We are working in this intelligently, because recycling of electronic parts, the equipments are there. But how to do it more and more intelligently? Why I'm using the word more intelligently, as because the world has to go on a next level. Currently, we are using everything like in a very traditional way. That okay, electronic part comes, we take out the spares and then recycle it and send it back. This is a very traditional way to do this. To make it more intelligently, some more like a computer vision technique, and for the robotic to have more human-centric way to do these kind of recycling plant within the recycling plant to work on. So we are working for this to design this kind of a robot, and using the computer vision, how to recycle the electronic parts, whether it's from the consumables like laptops or smartphones, or even from the manufacturing plants where the silicon wafers or silicon microchips are produced, because there also we have some waste material which we have to recycle on that part. So this is the second part which we work in for making a digital green digital. As we are basically from the construction side, so tunnel construction in Switzerland, there is a test gallery for the tunnel construction called Hegerbach. There also has been done that how to use the underground tunnels or the caves. Switzerland has too many old tunnels which has not been used anymore, so can be utilized for putting up the servers. And because it is under the ground, it consumes less heat, and it can be utilized in a better way for not producing the CO2 emission outside of the environment. So this is also the part which we work from the digital layer. One very interesting concept in our project, there is it's called IMOCO 4.E. It's an Excel project. in which we are working in developing of a VR simulator, virtual reality simulator for the automotives. Now, the virtual reality simulator is not so unique. It's done by many companies for so many years. Our target here is not just as a training for the operators or for the drivers for this thing. Our target here is to use this to generate the data for the autonomous car driving to train them. What is happening? So, for example, whether it's a Tesla, Daimler, or any company, they're using their existing car, physical car, which is running all over the world and collecting huge amount of data. Which means that CO2 emission is there, whether it's electric car or not. Even the electric car is working. It does not mean it's a zero emission. It's a myth that electric car is a zero emission thing, because you are charging and you are consuming the lithium ion, and then you have to throw it away after this life cycle. So, so to utilize just for the autonomous driving, we can use the VR simulator. It generates data in a realistic way. And then this data can be utilized for the autonomous driving training for the models. So this is how we can stop quite a huge amount of CO2 emission just to run the car for the collecting the data. So this can be overcome by these kind of situations. So these are the 3-4 areas where digital twin technology is very much focusing on how to make the green part, whether it's a digital or indirectly to the environment for that case. Thank you. Then this is my small word for the digital green.
Thank you very much, Raul. If you have any reference to articles, presentation, documents that you would like to share, please feel free to drop it on the chat.
I will do this.
For reference, for future reference. Now, since I don't see specific questions for the time being, I would like to give back the floor to Giovanni.
Thank you, Monique. Let me share my presentation and then I can start. So this should be this one. Okay, can you see it full screen? Very good, thank you. So here, in a similar way to Rahul, I will just present Martel, what we do, and also give, let's say, a quick slideshow kind of collection of activities and projects that we are involved in that can be located exactly in the combination, in the twin transition of moving forward with the digital transformation while respecting the planetary boundaries, sustainability, and general environmental impact constraints that are now, let's say, in front of everyone's eyes at the moment. So first, I will quickly say who we are at Martel. So we are a company with our headquarters in Switzerland and a subsidiary in Amsterdam. We are a small company. We are an SME, but we are established player. We have more than 25 years of experience, and we are, if I have to just label Martel as a whole, I would say that we are innovation consultants, and this is a generic term that has multiple aspects, as we will see in the following of the presentation. So in particular, we have participated in various roles to more than 100 research and innovation projects at European or national level or for private clients. And we also are engaged in a number of global partnership and associative initiatives. So what we try to cover is a wide spectrum of what goes under the idea of innovation. So this means that we really go all the way at the boundaries with academic fundamental research, and we can participate together with academic institutions, university research centers to actual research and innovation initiatives, but we also do consulting, management, and mentoring for more applied, more closer to the market innovation aspects. And we have a very strong expertise in European level research and innovation programs, again, starting from the higher, let's say more generic research, up to the measures that are very close to market entry, like startup co-investment and business innovation. We do also media and communication and training services. So as I said, we are a multifaceted innovation consultant. And even in our corporate mission, you see that, of course, as a consulting company, we are at the service of our partners and customers. And we want to cover the whole spectrum of innovation, which means that, as you can see from in the four, let's say, vignettes that we have in the slide, we certainly are up for improving, accelerating, and making more effective the digital transformation. And we do this by combining technological competence and vision, especially with a special bias, I would say, towards open technologies, with the media outreach impact aspect, which is very important for us, especially when we tackle problems such as climate change or carbon footprint that are by their nature holistic and end-to-end and not really amenable to a divide and conquer approach. And this brings me to the fourth vignette, which is exactly the ICT for sustainable development, which doesn't mean ICT and sustainable development. So as we have heard already in the Almut presentation, it's not automatic that the ICT helps. So you have to use ICT with the purpose of working towards sustainable development and not independently or even worse against it. So you see that from the mission and vision point of view, Martel already has this awareness. And since, as I said, we want to help our clients and partners throughout the innovation chain, this means that we, as a corporate culture, we tend to consider the end-to-end result of innovation. So this is not just about the first step of having a great idea and getting it published or getting it funded. And it's also not about implementing some intermediate prototypes that then may or may not be actually useful in practical application and for market entry, but it's really about trying to cover the whole spectrum. And since we are a small consulting company with a diverse set of expertise, we are also people-based because every person in Martel has a unique set of expertise because of our, as I said, a combination of our small size and wide scope in innovation. So if I concentrate on our expertise in European Commission funded, we can play various roles in terms of project management or communication expert or specific technological and research partners on set of topics in ICT that we have expertise about, that you can see here on the right side, for example, in next generation internet or cloud edge IoT, artificial intelligence, next generation, anyway, current and next generation telecommunication network, smart cities, and various of these areas that are these days hopefully fundamental enablers for the twin transition. Now here I am reporting some numbers of our activity connected to the just ended Horizon 2020 program. Of course, we are also engaged in Horizon Europe, and we won our first project that will start between now and September. And I can already see that already at the beginning of these new 7-year programs, you can see how this twinning of strictly technological agenda with environmental concern and social concern is really now deeply baked in every part of the Horizon Europe program. So there is this multi-actor approach that really tries to invite consortia to bring together different expertise so that you can really have the global optimum or the global vision of a complexity of a problem that is never only technological, but is technological, environmental, and social at least. Good. So here these are some examples of the projects, but I'm only using this slide as a temporary, let's say, announcement, just to show you the two projects I want to talk about. The first is called REACT, is a research project in the area of circular economy, especially of improving circularity of the textile industry in a specific area. And the second one is Horizon Cloud, which is not a research project, but it is a coordination and community building project that is actually considering the evolution of cloud computing, IoT, and the ongoing convergence with IoT and edge computing under several aspects, one of which is exactly the green ICT. So on with the first, this REACT is a research and innovation project, and you can see here the website. You will be able then to read about it directly in the website that I depicted here on the left. And the idea here, the goal of the project is to improve circularity by particularly managing the waste textiles in acrylic fiber that are the byproducts of the industrial production, particularly on outdoor sunscreens and garden furniture and so on. So you see that here we have already a very specific domain, and the partners of this project are experts and members of this industry in various roles in the value chain, and Martel is not. So this is what is important and why I'm bringing this forward, because this is the first example of this combination of domain expertise that is not necessarily ICT. In this case, of course, is textile manufacturing and chemistry, because here we are talking about also chemical processes to separate the reusable fiber from the specific substances that have been added to make it suitable for garden furniture or sunscreen, but are not generally desired to produce a completely reusable fiber. There are very clear targets of circularity here, and if you go on the website, you will see a video and a report from Expo last year, where you can hear the expert partners, so not me, but the people that are actually in the textile industry, explaining what they achieved. And there is also a prototype furniture made completely with these recycled fibers. But again, given the, let's say, holistic nature of all this problem, the project is not only about industrial process improvement, but also the last point in the slide, you can see that is also about produce recommendations for the whole production chain in the textile industry. So once again, these problems are tackled not only through technological innovation, but also through social action, group exchange, and also policy action, because this recommendation can be taken as input both by other businesses that can adapt their own production processes according to this recommendation, but also by policymakers that they can try to assess the economic and social benefits of this increased circularity and deploy policy incentives of regulation as necessary for their goals. And so this is an example of a very specific research action that can be put in context to help tackle problems like planetary boundaries and circular economy implementation. Second one, Horizon Cloud, same thing here. I reported the URL website, and I will put them in the chat, but you will also get the slides at the end as Monique announced. So this is not a research action. This is a so-called coordination and support action, which means that it's a project that helps the research project in a certain area, which in this case is cloud computing, to work together, to exchange information, to be more impactful by organizing events, having a portal that is displayed there on the figure, and somehow creating a community and working as a forum for people that are active or interested in cloud computing to come together and discuss and exchange ideas. So this project had a series of topics, and beyond community building and communication, so the more, let's say, media and engagement part, also produced and is still producing documents that are technological landscapes, research agendas, analysis of, for example, the ICT skill gap in Europe, specifically tailored to cloud computing and so on. And also some technological trends like edge computing. But here what I want to say is that one of the main topics of this initiative, because it was recognized by the European Commission when the project started 3 years ago, was green cloud. In particular, we already saw in the previous presentation by Almut that carbon neutral data center are an important aspect. But for example, at the moment, even the best providers from an energy efficiency point of view, they measure carbon neutral in an aggregated way. So in the winter, maybe I am carbon neutral, but in the summer I am not, because I have to increase the cooling of the data center. And so there are already movements to try to define more precise metrics in a way that a data center should be carbon neutral every day, and not to be carbon neutral or negative when the wind blows their way, and then try to compensate with some reallocation. This, of course, is not a trivial problem, because it requires also cooperation with the grid, with the electricity distribution, and so on. But this is an example of some of the questions that have been tackled by this project. Again, not so much by having experts internally, but by creating a community and discussing these topics. Then there are also there's also interplay between the core issue of how do we make cloud computing more sustainable and reduce the carbon footprint, with the aspects like, okay, Europe would like to strive for digital sovereignty, digital autonomy. So we also want to have a more open market with more providers. We don't want to have complete absorption by the largest cloud providers. However, this goes a little bit against the carbon neutrality or the energy efficiency, because that's a situation similar to the, let's say, inconvenient truth that the intensively reared chicken is actually a meat production that is much more sustainable than the organic, free grazing, free range chicken. So it is more cruel for the animal, but it is, of course, more efficient because you can produce more meat in the same space. And it's a little bit the same. So the large cloud provider with huge data centers can be a monopoly risk for the market, but can be good for energy efficiency. Then we have edge computing also here. So the trend that we want to put the computers close to the data, but then it's more difficult to make those smaller computers energy efficient. And this also means that the network, of the communication network between nodes becomes more important, because if you have a strong edge computing system, it's more distributed, there is more traffic. There are more links in the network, let's say. It doesn't necessarily mean that there is more traffic aggregate, but there are more links in the network. And so all these are complex social, economical, environmental, and technological issues that need to be addressed, again, with an eye on the big picture. So this, I think, is another, coming from another direction, but confirms what I mentioned before. Of course, Martel, being small and in an international environment, is very aware of the importance of not going towards our goals alone, but to try to work together with clients, yes, partners, yes, but also competitors, and also institutions, and also associations, and so on. So here you can see quickly a list of associations that Martel is a member of in various roles. You see there are technological, there is Digital for Planet, there are Digital SME Alliance, so there are different types of association. But this is just to show you that small as we are very aware of the importance of networking and working together in an extended, let's say, ecosystem. And last but not least, I want to say that Martel, that so far I painted as a consulting and service company, we also are a product company, because we have a specific software product, which is called Orchestra Cities, and it is IoT platform, so distributed sensor data gathering and visualization system, that it is particularly at the moment focused on smart cities. And we have seen again in the previous two, in both intervention actually, the importance of smart mobility and how much synergy there could be between digital systems in mobility and the improvement of environmental effectiveness of mobility. But again, we have heard that this also has to take into account social aspects like possible competition or even cannibalization of some transport means on the part of others and so on. So coming back to Orchestra Cities, this is a cloud-native IoT platform that allows to collect data from various data sources and sensors, and allows to process them and share them using a wide range of transformation and visualization components. It is based on Fireware components. So Martel, as I showed before, is based on is a member of Fireware and is a strong contributor to some key components. And unfortunately, we will not have today the presentation from Christina on Fireware, but of course I invite you to ask questions to me, or to look up on the fireware.org website what the foundation is working on. So some feature of Orchestra Cities is that it is an open source software, but more important, embraces a philosophy of having open APIs and open data models. Particularly, the data models are the standard ones that are managed and proposed and managed by the Fireware Foundation. We include in the data location and time, so that you can do complex analysis about geographical patterns and time series. It is cloud-based, so you can imagine the architecture, how it is, microservices, can run on all the cloud provider infrastructures and so on. What is important for us, that's why it's called Orchestra Cities, is that the platform supports collaboration between multiple cities. So this, once again, is this network thinking. City will gather their data, but maybe the traffic pattern or the weather in a city depends also on what happens in the neighboring areas. And therefore, it can be interesting to work together with neighbors and have this cluster of cities working together in a multi-tenant platform. This, of course, also comes from the fact that we are based in Switzerland, and so we are used to a population distribution that doesn't have a huge metropolis, but it has a lot of close and technologically advanced but small-sized villages. And so, as I said, the idea of open, that is one of the points that were already in the Martel mission, is not about only open source, but also about the data standards and API. Some application scenarios that you can imagine are particularly important for us is pollution and air quality management, and now we are integrating also with carbon footprint monitoring, and waste management, and also electrical vehicle and parking management. These are all classic, I would say, smart cities use cases that also all have the environmental facet connected to the transportation. I want to spend a quick word on something that we started to work on. It is an application of artificial intelligence, particularly of probabilistic reasoning and causal inference. That is, in our opinion, an interesting technique to try, because it has some properties that are desirable in the idea of explainable and trustworthy AI. So you can ask the system why it reached a certain conclusion. And it is also supporting the so-called interventional and counterfactual analysis. So it can really do simulations like what would have happened if last week the city had forbidden non-electric cars in this area, or what will happen now if next week we will make an incentives for public transportation, or make an agreement with private mobility providers to use more electrical vehicles. So you can do this kind of interesting simulation that are, in our opinion, very important for decision makers in the city, so that they can start to integrate data-driven decision making in their processes. So here I can close, and if I have to sum up my presentation that has been a little bit, you see, scattered on different projects, is that it is about holistic and let's say integrated vision of problems and solutions. So we absolutely do not jump into technological solutionism where the problem is somehow independent and the technology is like the medicine for that. I think it is clear for Martel, given our diversity of expertise, that we have to consider all these multiple systemic aspects that are typical of all these problems of which climate change is just a big example that we have in front of us, but you've seen it's not even the biggest wave that we have to face in the future. And this is really rooted in complex system theory and complex system management theory. And so this is really not specifically a property of environmental systems, but it is certainly very true of those, that you cannot solve them piecemeal, but you have to have let's say, integrated and continuously checked and updated approach. You cannot make a plan now and then execute it, but you have to continuously check and update what you're doing depending on how the situation changes. So I think that company like Martel is a good fit for these kind of problems, because we are multifaceted in our expertise and in our positioning between the transfer chain between research and product and services on the market, and we are ecosystem oriented. Okay, so we work with clients, with partners, but also with competitors and with third-party social actors that have nothing to do with Martel business in the first place, but they are just an important aspect of the ecosystem where we move. And we try to be end-to-end and goal-driven, so we try to avoid having a tunnel vision and concentrating on what we know better or what we do best, but we try to keep the eyes always open on the overall result of what we are trying to achieve with our customers and partners. And this ends my presentation. Thanks a lot for your attention. And Monica, I think I will stop now sharing the screen.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Giovanni. Very dense presentation with lots of information. We have here also some pointers that Raul has shared with the audience. So in case you want to have a look at some of the initiatives and points that he made during his presentation, please do so. So now I would like, before I give my final wrap-up presentation about Digital for Planet, what I would like is to give the floor to our expert panels to discuss a little bit on some of the core aspects and priorities. So Almut, one question that goes more to you as representatives of the European Commission. Of course, there is quite a few initiatives that are coming up where there will be funding and opportunities for researchers and innovators to actually finance part of their green digital activities. Now, if you could tell us what are the main initiatives in this respect, especially for the ICT in the era of digital technologies, what are going to be the key priorities, let's say, for the Commission? Where should the researchers and innovator focus their efforts?
Well, this is a tricky question. Do you hear me? Yes.
Yes.
It's a tricky question. I think everything is already set out. The horizon Europe is clear on where it wants to go. It's really a wide range. As Giovanni said, it's really more going into more holistic approaches and to break down silos as much as possible. So it's both technological research, but it's also really bring it down to the road, if I want to put it like this, because we know a lot of things, and often the part of, let's say, the analytics is quite strong, but we don't really deliver yet to bring it down to the ground. Also, the questions that have been asked on how do we really close the loops of circularity, and how does the recycling work? This is really where let's say the point of attention should lie. I think the let's say the ecosystems of enterprises, they're so agile. There are so many out there doing a great job. It's so the main point should be look beyond the own rim of reality, join up with other people, and also, as Giovanni said, the technological progress will do it by itself, but it needs a purpose. Just to also come back to one of your strong motto of Digital for Planet, I think this is really what it's about when it comes to the next steps.
Thank you, Almut. As a technologist, Raul, what kind of boundary conditions need to be satisfied, or what kind of preconditions would you expect that the European Commission or other main policymakers should be minding for making sure that a number of things you mentioned will really happen into our society?
From the European, very frankly speaking, I never thought of that European Commission, what they have to do, because at this moment we have to do from our side. So if yes, European Commission has started some interesting research calls. So there are a few research calls has been passed last year also, and in this year, which very much focusing about how to, like what I was talking about, AI on chip. So the call was about low power processor. So from the European Commission, this thing has been initiated. Now it's a turn of the SMEs and the research institutes to utilize these kind of effort and to make the product out of it. What I have realized over the period to work on the research calls is by the end of the research projects, majority of the time we don't have a product. I don't say that the product ready product, but at least after 4 or 5 years the product should have to come in the market, which we can see. So this is the research projects which we are running are not very product oriented. So as mentioned earlier by Giovanni also, we have to very much focus on the product oriented, and not only on paper but in reality. So this is what I would like to add here, that it is not now the turn. The European Commission has done their part. We have to done from the research institutes and the SMEs and the industry partners. We have to do our part from utilizing whatever the calls has been there to convert this into a product which can work in the area of a green digital or in the other sectors of the market.
And Giovanni, the same question more or less to you as a innovator, digital innovator company, and also software development company. What do you think are the boundary preconditions or the main priorities for the kind of transformation that Martel is promoting to really happen?
Well, I think probably the first point is to keep changing a little bit the presentation, how we think of IT systems or even social technical systems. So at the moment, I mean, the the self-representation of IT is to be weightless, invisible, does stuff like by magic, and this is all a self-representation that sneaks away from the responsibilities of actual impact, right? I remember, but this is not a new thing, because I remember when I was at university, we had a guest talk by an engineer from a large computer company, and she was responsible for the thermal equilibrium of the computers. And then she was joking, saying that normally electronic engineers, they are too busy making their circuit go fast to actually make sure that they don't catch fire. And so this is a little bit something that is very deeply rooted, right? Information at your fingertips by Microsoft is, I don't know, 30 years ago. And cloud computing, right? The cloud is up there, doesn't consume anything, doesn't weight anything. So I think the first point is to learn that technology is a fundamental tool, but must be used in combination. So this, from a practical point of view, for example, depends, should affect procurement by large clients. I have seen some, especially in smart cities, some interesting ideas of having a multi-stage procurement where they start first with a platform and general goals, and then the winner of that then can help the city to write the tender for the next phase, where the big money comes in, and when the actual, let's say, use cases are implemented. But the rules have been set before. Then also I have seen that sometimes the authorities or the large corporation, they already think in an ecosystem way. So they pay the vendors and the project executors not only to do the job that they need, but also to enable future third parties that we don't know yet to also contribute. So from my point of view, this is really a change of view of what value chain is, of what the value network is. Because at the moment, a lot of companies, they talk about ecosystem, but they understand it like in a, I don't know, in an old-fashioned eBay kind of thing. Ecosystem is that I have something in the middle and everybody comes to me so that I can extract rent from it. Whereas true decentralized cooperation is still, I think, not so common. So I would say this is for me in general the first the most important priority. This applies to most industries. For smart cities, I would say that local governments, I mean, let's say the push for the bottom-up implementation of this project and of local stakeholders engagement is very important. So less projects from above and more aggregation of initiatives. This, of course, matches with open systems then by construction.
Thank you, Giovanni. Well, if you allow me, before I come to a question that is from Luisa Barker for Almut, I think that we have heard, and you guys have mentioned a number of key initiatives, and now my role is also a little bit to argue for the kind of initiatives like Digital for Planet, the role that these kind of initiatives can have in this green digital transformation, because clearly what we are seeing is that an increasing number of organizations are investing on turning into green digital organizations, but this comes along with huge costs. And it's not easy, especially for small companies, to just change their infrastructure, their way of working, to become greener. Even though we have specific objectives for the digital decade to become climate neutral by 2030, we know that to get there, we need investment. We need not only to educate and change the way people work and think and behave, but we need incentives. We need fiscal incentives. We need investments. We need to facilitate these transformations towards a greener evolution of our society. So on the one hand, there is, the technology, the research, the innovation push factor. You know, technology allows you to do more and more in the direction of achieving green deals objectives. On the other hand, the market pull and the market pace is different. There are boundary conditions, legal, regulatory aspects that move at a much slower pace. So here my question to Almut is, what is the role of public bodies like the European Commission, but many others, in trying to mediate between this dichotomy of, you know, a very fast technology transformation, and on the other hand, very slow transformation of our education, laws, regulatory systems? I know it's not easy, but I wanted to reflect about that with you.
Well, I think you, in a way, and yeah, you're just stating the obvious, which is very important, but it's just the obvious. The legal framework will always lag behind innovation, and sometimes also socio ecologic and economic realities. For example, the Digital Services Act and the Digital Markets Act is kind of trying to frame in European values what is already out there in order to make it work for people. So we will never really be able to catch up on economic developments or be at the same pace with the regulatory proposals than the reality is already out there. But it's always kind of keeping the pace to the extent possible. And the thing is, the Commission has the intention to be as close to the pulse of innovators. This is why there's a lot of money out there in Horizon Europe, in the Digital Decades projects, to be sure that what is happening can already inform next steps that are considered to be necessary on a legal basis. But on the other hand, sometimes the legal basis or the regulations is not the end of it. Sure, it always takes a lot of time, especially when we, Giovanni made reference to it, when we start working towards standards in order to kind of frame all of the players. We will always have different speeds out there, from innovators that are, let's say, real cutting edge out there, and they're already in the outer space, and others that will kind of be only obliged, for example, by taxonomy, by sustainable finance, by let's say markets where greener products sell more easily than, let's say, traditional brown products, in order to jump on the train that is really moving forward. I cannot give you any silver bullet on this. It's really about what Giovanni said, but also Raul, working better and more holistically. This has been out there as a kind of a request for years and years and years, but now we see we cannot afford any longer to stay siloed. And every, let's say, interaction takes time to find a common approach. So we just need to be remain positive that this is the only way that also distinguishes us between a model that is much more, let's say, economically driven in digitalization, like let's say the US, in the sense of my data, my business case, so personal data is given for to make money, or the Chinese possibility, your data, my surveillance, and we really need to find here a European way to really make the best for climate, for environment, but also for people, out of an economic development that is out there and that is running very fast. And I really do see a lot of value for associations like Digital for Planet to spread the word in this understanding, because otherwise I also saw the the question of Luisa in the chat.
Yes.
Yeah, it's really, so just to for those that don't see it, it's about how can we bridge the situation that funding does not really, or the funding, the projects are not really yet going together, green and digital. It's for everybody of us to work towards this. If you have possibilities to talk to your administration, to your national governments, those plans will be reviewed. But I think it's just also the easier way is to look in your silos. Then you can go quicker, but you don't go as far as if you join up with your neighbors. And this is what is really what it's all about now.
Thank you, Almut. So you saw the questions, the question from Luisa about funding for Next Generation EU to focusing on green and digital together. Well, I guess here you indirectly answer, because there are many different calls from different clusters in Horizon Europe. In fact, at Digital for Planet, we are looking very closely, because we are also helping organizations to identify the best calls that fit to this green digital transformation. So in fact, there are several calls across different missions and clusters in Horizon Europe. I don't know if you want to add anything, Almut, here about this.
Very briefly towards Luisa, what I was saying, that in the national resilience and recovery plans, we are missing this holistic proposals for joint projects. So there is no mention of enabling environmental aims by using digital beyond monitoring. At the same time, in the digital field, there is no mentioning of how can digital specifically promote green policy goals. So this is really what needs to be informed by all the activities you're doing.
Thank you very much. There's 10 minutes left. I wanted to present a few slides about Digital for Planet, but before, I would like to give the floor also for a final recap, final recommendation from Giovanni and from Raul as well.
Yes. Quickly, we are talking, everyone is talking about how any project or will go green. Very in a very simplistic way. So every project, like we are running the research projects, we always define KPIs. We define KPIs for CO2 emission. Why not to define the KPIs to calculate the CO2 emission from your digital activities, what you're doing? If we able to define this thing, then it would be easier to define whether your project is very much towards the Green Deal or not. So the project consortium should have to define their KPIs and present it to the consortium meeting or the review meeting, and then every project can be scaled then by the European Commission, that which project is going towards the Green Deal higher up and up. So,
thank you, Raul. Giovanni?
Well, I think that maybe my recommendation would be to keep on talking, keep on participating, because this is actually, it's the substrate of effective action for these problems, but also don't forget to get practical somehow, because you really need a combination of engagement and bottom-up action from certain point of view. And sometimes bottom-up action means also putting pressure on institution or companies. So it's also indirect action. So this is what I would say when we compare the European way with the US or China, as Almut mentioned. I think our heart is in the right place and our brain is turned on and thinking well, but sometimes we lag in the practical implementation. I think also Raul said the projects from Horizon 2020 or Europe are not product oriented enough. Here I have to say, for fairness, that's the purpose. I mean, the Horizon Europe is not the go-to-market program. There are other programs like the EIC ones, but they are smaller, right? So at the moment, of course, there is a big push, but there is the recognition that this valley of death of between technological advancement and market entry is to be addressed. So I would really say keep engaged, but also get practicals, because I think in the get practical part is where we really can take a couple of pages from our, let's say, other dominant economical superpowers in terms at least of artificial intelligence, which is my actual specialization. So I think this would be my recommendation. So try to marry engagement and practical action.
Thank you very much. So now, if you allow me a few slides on Digital for Planet that has organized this event. So I will just, I hope you can see my screen, that you can see the slides. So Digital for Planet is a non-profit association that is based in Switzerland, but as I mentioned before, has members from other parts of Europe's, for several parts of Europe's. And the idea is really to support the development and adoption of green digital technologies and solutions. The core organization of Digital for Planet, it's that the ambition is to become a hub for green digital innovation. So to become a place, a virtual place where people can meet, find important information, find tools, find other experts in the field that can contribute to advance here the research and the innovation in the direction of green digital transformation. So we do different things, including providing help to researchers and innovators to identify calls, public-private funding opportunities. Now, the key idea is, as we heard several times, is to really create awareness and to align on common intents, because clearly without an alignment on the main strategic and operational priorities, it will be very difficult to achieve the sustainable UN Sustainable Development Goals or even the European Green Deal objectives. The good news, very good news, is that, as Almut said, as Giovanni reported and Raul confirmed, is that the community of doers, of policymakers, of technologists, of scientists, of researchers is at full work on this. There is not a unique recipe, definitely, but collaboration and knowledge exchange will be key in allowing and unleashing the power of green digital transformation. So that's why we have created this organization, and we have identified, together with our core members, with our close experts, four main directions of work. One is focusing on green cloud edge IoT computing. As we know, this vision of computing continuum is taking over. Also, the European Commission is investing in this convergence between cloud edge and IoT, and this convergence must be green in order to empower a sustainable digital transformation. Then we have a working group that is more dedicated to aspects concerning smart cities, so climate neutrality and sustainability in smart cities and smart communities overall as the main microcosmos where this green digital transformation must happen. Then we have a group that is focusing on sustainable next generation internet. We live in the internet. The internet has become our as someone said, the infosphere in which we're living in most of our time, we have to make sure that we power a human internet, an internet that is greener and more sustainable in its own infrastructure, but also in its own way of offering services, because of course internet service consumption, streaming, video streaming can induce a huge digital pollution. And finally, the all communication networks, the all wireless SATCOM infrastructure that empowers this digital transformation must be thought, conceived, built, and deployed in a more sustainable way. Now, there is, and this goes back to the question that we had from Luisa before, a lot of organizations, whether they are public or private, small or big, in order to put in place there's green digital transformation and to progress in their research work in this direction, they need either technical expertise, or they need funding, or they need to identify the right partners. And this is a little bit what Digital for Planet is doing, is to help them not only to voice their efforts, so our members are voiced throughout our channels, but also they are helped in creating and identifying synergies and calls of relevance. Now, you have all details in our web pages, digitalforplanet.org or .eu. Both of them will allow you to land in the same pages, and there you will find, you know, how and what you can do by joining this community. As I said, it's important that we create synergies and that we create bridges to help collaboration to happen, because only in doing so we will be able to really change the world and to save the planet that need all of us to work together. Now, you will see also on the website the benefits for the members. Here, I would like just to say that basically by being together, by connecting to others, not only you increase your chances to promote and gain visibility, but you also gain access to a lot of information and knowledge and tools that can help you move forward in your green digital transformation. Now, here you will find the details, full membership, associate members. There are several opportunities. There's not a unique way of joining, but what I think is very important is that you consider this as your further next step into greening your organization and your work for a digital green transformation. There are several channels active that several colleagues are keeping alive. And as I said, this webinar has been recorded. The slides will be made available. So if you spread the word also to people that could not join today, I'm sure they will benefit from the learnings that our speakers have shared along the discussions. So here I would stop, where it's 12 o'clock. So many thanks to all of you. Many thanks to Almut, to Giovanni and to Raul that I just saw had to leave a minute ago. And many thanks to all the participants and to the people that helped organizing this event. So I would like to say, continue to follow the many other events of the EU Green Week. There's quite a few others going on. And we will be in touch. So register to our newsletter if you want to be informed about the next events we will organize. Thanks a lot.